Hello, one and all. It's my view of My Hero Academia, Chapter 353, Endeavor. And it seems like Dabi may not actually be down for the count, as this chapter ends with his chest glowing and someone commenting, how is he still alive in this state? Which is concerning, very, very concerning, though not entirely unexpected. From seeing a lot of people online who are saying, oh, I bet it's a bomb in his chest, or oh, I bet All For One gave him a second quirk, and that just seems really unlikely to me. We get this flashback of All For One apparently offering Dabi a second quirk, and Dabi refuses it. Dabi says no. He says, like I need any of that C, which, I mean, makes a lot of sense for his character. I mean, all along he wants to prove to his father that he had what it took to become the #1 hero. He had what it took to overcome, overwhelm, defeat Shoto. He wants to prove that Endeavor was wrong for casting him aside, and he wants to do it with his own power, with the power he was born with, not the power he was given by All For One. So what exactly is going on with this chest here? I have a theory. Admittedly, it's a bit of an insane theory, but last chapter, Shoto said that his heat and his ice came from his heart. That was the source of his power, so maybe it's the same thing for Dabi. Maybe his heart is the source of his power, and what he's basically going to do next is literally turn himself into magma, literally turn his entire body, except for his heart and his brain, into burning hot fire, which is going to use to, keep the fight going for as long as he can. That's actually something rather similar to what we've recently seen in Vigilantes, so that would certainly be interesting. Definitely interesting. But speaking of being given a second quirk, it seems like Spinner was given a second quirk when All For One very weirdly caressed his face. That is creepy. That is really creepy. But either way, I was saying, in the previous video that looked like Spinner was a bit buffer. No, he's big. He is freaking huge. He's like 20 goddamn feet tall. Seriously, that is terrifying. That is terrifying. He went full freaking kaiju. And I think this might also explain the reason why All For One doesn't give quirks to other members in the League of Villains, because it seems like Spinner's mental state has taken a rather sharp decline. Yeah, he went crazy. He went really, really crazy. And I think this is what's going to happen if someone, is given multiple quirks. Their mental state, their mental integrity starts to break down, because it's basically, like putting someone else's soul inside your body. In fact, I've had a theory for a very long time. The reason why All For One is so cold and cruel and heartless is because he is literally filled with thousands and thousands of souls trapped inside of him. And they all just, basically drove him insane a very long time ago. They essentially ate away his soul until he became essentially a freaking demon. But anyway, though, Spinner is very, very upset that Dabi was taken down. He refuses to believe it. And a lot of people online are confused about this. Like, were Spinner and Dabi really all that close? And no, as far as I can tell, they were not. Though at the same time, recently Spinner said, oh, Shigaraki and I love to play video games together. And I am relatively certain that was never mentioned at any point before in the series. I mean, maybe Dabi and Spinner do in fact have some sort of weird hobby they like doing together, like going out for ice cream or knitting. But it seems fairly unlikely, and instead I think it just, Spinner's upset because Dabi is everything he wants to be. Spinner, let's not forget, his quirk is he's a lizard. He can stick to walls. That's about it. Meanwhile, Dabi could, literally turn entire neighborhoods to ash in the span of a few seconds. Spinner wanted that kind of power, and Spinner wanted the same conviction that Dabi had, because Dabi, his hatred is literally keeping him alive. His hatred is the only reason why he's not dead right now. Literally the only reason why he's not dead right now. And for Spinner, he doesn't really have that same conviction. He wanted to become, like Stain, someone who's able to make the #2 hero Endeavor literally quake with fear. And yet Spinner just doesn't have that same conviction. Yes, he's angry about racism, which is a fairly appropriate thing to be angry about, but at the same time, he doesn't really want to fight it all that badly. It's not why he's doing this. He's fighting here and now for the sake of, Shigaraki, for the sake of his friend who he likes to play games with. That's about it. So, yeah, for him to find out that Dabi lost with all his power, with all his conviction, that hurts. That really hurts him. Makes him think, what am I fighting for all this time if even the people who have the power and the conviction and the will are unable to do anything about it? But speaking of racism, or discrimination, I guess it's not technically racism because Spinner is of the same race as everyone else. Sorry about that. But anyway, speaking of discrimination, there's also the fact, or actually, would it be racism? Because technically Spinner is a heteromorph, a mutant-type quirk. Can a person's quirk factor be a contribution to their race? I honestly don't know about that. Let's just say it's discrimination, though. I'm sorry for the confusion. Anyway, discrimination of Shoji. He is by far the least human-looking member in all of Class 1A, so it makes a lot of sense that he'd be facing off against Spinner. I mean, a lot of people have been theorizing this is going to happen for a while now. But the thing is, we haven't actually heard Shoji literally ever mention anything about being discriminated against, at least as far as I can remember. And Shoji is, honestly, quite frankly, an incredibly forgettable member of the class. I mean, despite his appearance, nobody really remembers him. In fact, when you actually got to see his room all those many, many chapters ago, it was plain, it was bare. He even said he doesn't have any worldly desires. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing about him that really stands out besides his appearance. And just, I don't know, it feels like they're setting up something where it's like Shoji and Spinner discussing discrimination, while they fight. But Shoji's given us no real reason to think he's being discriminated against. I mean, there is the mask he always wears on his face. Maybe that's because, his actual mouth is very teethy, very monstrous. And he doesn't want to scare people. In fact, somebody actually asked him about the mask a very long time ago, but he was interrupted before he could explain exactly why he wears it, so I guess that could be something, him telling a story to Spinner as they fight, that would make some sense, but at the same time, it feels like this could have been built up more. It feels like, there could have been an instance of Shoji being discriminated against at some point in the series, though there's still some potential here I think it'd be really interesting. I mean, the world of My Hero Academia is a very, very complicated world, and everyone is facing different, challenges and discriminations based on how they look, what their quirk is, what they can do, what they can't do. So, maybe this is something that others don't actually realize, don't actually recognize. Maybe, we're going to get a flashback to everyone sitting in UA, talking about Spinner, the Liberation Army and all that, and Shoji will pipe up and mention, I was actually discriminated against a lot as a kid because of how I looked, and Deku and the rest of them be like, oh my god, I had no idea discrimination like that was a thing that you were going through. I'm so sorry. I mean, maybe. That could actually be a really interesting scene, them basically saying that people don't actually understand discrimination if they don't actually experience it. Maybe. I'm not sure about that. Again, it just feels like it could have been foreshadowed more in the past. But anyway, though, as it turns out, Spinner and the rest of this group of the League of Villains, Paranormal Liberation Army, whatever, are attacking Central Hospital in order to save Korogiri, which, that's bad. That is really, really bad, because, I am somewhat hopeful that Korogiri might end up switching sides and fighting alongside the heroes. It'd be so amazing. But if he ends up getting freed by the villains here, he could become their worst nightmare, teleporting around every single battlefield, freeing everyone, getting them all together, and allowing them to team up with Shigaraki to take down everybody else. That'd be bad. That'd be really, really bad. So, Shoji, come on. Fight, defeat Spinner, even though he's turned into a giant frickin' kaiju. And speaking of battlefields, we also have another fight going on at the Jaku Hospital ruins, where they are detaining Gigantomachia, which, yeah, thank God, thank you freaking God. Some people online were arguing, speculating, saying, oh, Gigantomachia is done, he's not coming back, there's no way they're gonna give him entire arc as well, it's just not gonna happen, but here it is. They are freaking doing it! Huzzah! I know it seems like, they're doing a fairly good job of keeping the villains away from where Gigantomachia is being stored, but I know he's going to break free, and I cannot wait. I cannot freaking wait for it. Especially with the fan theories going on that Gigantomachia is in fact Crimson Riot, the person who inspired Red Riot to be, the manly hero he is today. Oh, that'd be a great reveal. That'd be such a great reveal. It'd be so painful, so amazing. I would so love to see it. Also, as it turns out, I was wondering for a long time where exactly Gigantomachia is being stored. Apparently it's still at the Jaku Hospital ruins. They never actually moved him. They basically just tied him to the ground right there, and then built basically a giant cage around him, and have kept him locked up in there for the last several months. I love it. I freaking love it. Anyway, though, it turns out the heroes knew the villains were going to try and free Gigantomachia, so they have a whole small army waiting for them. I love it. And, yeah, we have this one dude, really freaking creepy looking dude in a mask, holding a box that says FGI, I'm not sure what that's about. And the way he talks really makes it sound like he was the one that murdered Midnight, which, Oh, that was painful. That was very, very painful to hear. And Mina, I mean, she was definitely shook by that until good old Red Riot arrived and saved the day. Huzzah! Giving her the emotional support she needs to basically stand back up and keep the fight going. Oh, I can't wait for this. I cannot freaking wait for this fight. It's going to be so amazing. And like I said before, I think there's a very good chance that Gigantomachia is going to get freed, which means that these two and Mount Lady and everyone else is here is going to need to do a whole lot of fighting to keep him from rejoining All For One and Shigaraki. Or things are going to go bad. Things are going to go very, very badly. Though, something else I want to mention, Red Riot says here he was away on an escort mission, which... who in God's name was he escorting? I mean, seriously, that's a very weird detail to include here. I mean, maybe Kurogiri, but, Kurogiri can teleport, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. I said in the last video that maybe, maybe Dabi and Shoto's family are going to want to come to the battlefield to basically say their final words to Dabi, and maybe they'll be able to, stop his rampage long enough for his hatred to die down and him to die of natural causes. But I don't really understand why Red Riot would be the one to, basically escort them there, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. Oh god, if I want to be really, really optimistic, maybe it's the Crawler from Vigilantes. Maybe he was being escorted to one of the other battlefields. Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be so, so amazing. I mean, unlikely, but definitely amazing. Really not sure about that one, though. Anyway, though, back at the start of this chapter, everybody's super excited, super happy that Dabi was taken down. It's like, yeah, we did it! We beat one of the enemy! We're up by 1! Nobody can stop us now! Which is a very arrogant attitude take. It's like they're trying to friggin' tempt fate. It's like they're saying, oh, I'm invincible, I can't die, there's no way anything bad could ever happen to me. Though on the bright side now, All Might is, I guess sad. Very, very sad. That's not really the bright side, but it's still a lot more of a level of response. All Might is really recognizing, okay, Shoto, I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry you had to fight your own brother like that. I'm so sorry you had to take down your own brother like that. I can't imagine the burden that was placed on your shoulders because, well, at least partly because of me. I mean, your father was trying to catch up to me, and that's the entire reason why you were born, so I'm sorry I was ever born. Oh, All Might, I know you're having a really, really hard time in this battle, basically being in the command center away from everything else, and it's gotta hurt. It's really gotta hurt him. And then we have Fat Gum and Ayama facing off against Kunita, who is a weird dude, a seriously weird dude, or dudette, I'm honestly not sure. This person is able to grow an entire forest of giant flowers. Apparently they were in Tars at one point, and apparently they were also supposed to be the one that, one of the people at least, who went after Deku. They were one of the assassins handpicked by All For One to go after Deku, and not necessarily kill him, but just cause some severe psychological damage, which seems entirely possible. This person seems messed up. This person seems seriously messed up in the head. And they also just take a second to remind Ayama, hey, listen up. You realize you have betrayed All For One, and nobody who's ever betrayed All For One has lived, all that long to tell the story. You are going to die. You are 100% going to freaking die. I mean, it doesn't say it here, but I feel like even, if they manage to somehow defeat all the villains, somehow manage to free All For One, at some point, somebody who owed All For One a favor is going to come to town and try to murder Ayama. I mean, a lot of villains across the world owed All For One a favor. That was his whole, evil business model. I do you a favor today, and then you owe me down the road. So, yeah, even if he does end up getting killed, arrested, whatever, there's still going to be a lot of people who are chasing after Ayama, who want to kill him in order to settle their debts with All For One. That's unnerving. That's very, very unnerving for him. Maybe, witness protection, something like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, though, then we have this very heartfelt moment between Ida and Shoto, which, is nice and all, but Ida, what exactly is your role in all of this? I mean, the creepy flower dude even said they clearly prioritized who's gonna fight who, and yet they had Ida in a battle against Dabi. I mean, no, Shoto is supposed to be the main contender here, but Ida's engines stop working when they're subjected to incredible heat or cold, and that's all they're experiencing in this fight. In fact, Ida's engines have apparently stalled out already, so I think even if Dabi were to explode next chapter, Ida wouldn't be able to do anything about it. He wouldn't be able to run away, save Shoto, do anything else. He would just basically get caught up in the explosion himself, so Weird. Very, very weird. Anyway, though, then Endeavor finds out that his one son basically murdered his other son, and his reaction is, shock? Maybe a little surprise as well? I mean, even All For One has trouble figuring out exactly what Endeavor is feeling in this moment. Though that might be because All For One doesn't actually have any eyes. Curious, very curious. I'm not actually sure how he sees. I know it's a quirk, but I'm not actually sure what it is he's perceiving around him. Weird. Very, very weird. Anyway, the other thing is a whole evil mind game speech about how, oh, you forced your one son to murder the other son because, oh, heroes have so much to protect. And then things take a very creepy turn as All For One unleashes a different quirk from all of his fingers, including one that turns his muscle into a giant screaming head thing, which, yeah, that's creepy. That is seriously freaking creepy. And I'm guessing next chapter will bring us over to the All For One versus Endeavor fight. That'll be the main focus of next couple chapters. And then maybe, it just seems like all is one, save the day. Everything will take a very dramatic, very dark turn. Dobby will rise back from the dead. Because, I don't think he has a second quirk, but it's also possible that All For One gave him a second quirk without him actually realizing it. Maybe that's the reason why his mental state degraded so much after he woke up from the coma, why he became, basically a serial killer. After that, All For One put a quirk inside his body while he was still asleep and never actually told him about it. Maybe, I'm not sure about that, but please let me know down below. What's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen in this fight? What's going on with Dobby? Why is his chest glowing like that? Why is Ida here? Seriously, why the freak is Ida here? Will Spinner manage to free Korgiri? What exactly is Shoji's story in the past? Why does he wear a mask? And what is he going to say to Spinner? What has been his history facing off against discrimination? Do you think they're going to free Gigantomachia from his prison? And if so, how will Mina and Red Riot be able to stop him? Do you think Gigantomachia is in fact the original Crimson Riots? And just what else is going to happen? Things are getting interesting. Things are definitely getting interesting. But please let me know what you think about all this down below. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. And until then, peace!